We are live. What's up? Thank you to everybody for joining in. Those that are here checking this out, I appreciate it. So if you're watching, obviously it looks a little bit different today. I am here at church rather than at home. I really wish my office was, I don't know, arranged a little bit different. It'd be really cool to have like big bookshelves behind me all filled with spiritual books or whatever. But yeah, it's just a shelf with a bunch of junk that I've collected as a youth pastor. So there you go. There's that. But anyway, so thank you guys for tuning in today. Um, as always, want to start with what we're thankful for. So let me know in the chat what you are thankful for today. I am thankful for Pastor Rob, who number one is into technology more than I am, and number two is generous and caring and sharing, and allowed me to borrow his webcam so that I could do this here rather than at home today. Just sort of busy schedule with a lot of different things going on, and that would have required me to leave church, run home to record a 10-minute video, and come right back. So thankful to be able to do this here. Listen, I tested this earlier today. And when I tested it, the audio came through well. The video was kind of laggy. So if that's happening, I apologize. This is just sort of the best we've got right now. So hopefully it's not too much of a distraction, but glad to be with you guys today. I see Tim checking in. Hello, Tim. Let me know what you are thankful for today. And any others, let me know in the chat. Also, just a quick reminder, if you're going to check in with thankfulness or quarter team game guesses, make sure you do that on the chat or send me an email or something, because I still don't have a phone. It's supposed to get here maybe today, maybe tomorrow, but just as a reminder to that, I won't be able to get texts for a little while longer. So anyway, all right, quarter team games for today. Hey, it's that time. Quarter team games. So last time the question was on this date on Monday, the first Porsche came off. Well, I was about to say assembly line, but it wasn't assembly line. It was hand put together. So the question was, what year did that happen? The correct answer was 1948. Nobody was super close. The two closest were really close in terms of guesses. And the closest guess by only 1 year was Blair. Her guess was 1983. So congrats to Blair for winning that quarter. That gets added to the total. I'm glad you're here to get to join in on that. So today's question, we're going to go a little weather related. What is the hottest temperature ever recorded in Illinois? Hottest temperature ever recorded in Illinois. In Fahrenheit, you probably would assume that, but just to be clear. So that's what we're looking for today. Hottest temp in Illinois in history. If you care, it was in 1954, I think. But anyway, that's not the point. So let me know what your guesses are for that, and we'll have some fun with that. So, all right, let's get into the devotion itself. So we are starting a new series today on the 10 Commandments. And so obviously we're going to be on the first one today, which is you shall have no other gods before me. So before we really get to the commandment itself, which is verse 3. All of this is in Exodus 20, by the way, and hopefully we know that. 10 Commandments, Exodus 20, that's something that we should know, a fact we should have memorized. Exodus chapter 20, the first commandment in terms of no other gods before me is in verse 3, but I want to talk real briefly about verse 2 that sort of sets the stage for the whole thing, okay? So verse 2 says, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. So God sort of introduces the law with this statement that I am the Lord your God, which by starting by saying that, this is when we have Lord in all caps as we do here. Remember, that's God's name, Yahweh, Jehovah, however we pronounce it. This is God's covenant name, his covenant relationship with the people. God is a personal being, and he is sort of reminding his people then and us now of that he is a personal God who loves us and cares for us and wants a relationship with us. So that's a part of this, but also brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. So this is a reminder of what God has already done for the Israelites, and ultimately what he has done for us in rescuing us out of slavery to sin, right? The life that we have in Christ is only because of him, similar to the Israelites and their freedom from slavery in Egypt. So listen, we owe him our allegiance because of that. But that's also a reminder to us that he is working for our good, that God had rescued them out of slavery. Look, I'm on your side. I am working for your good, which is a reminder to us from the get-go that the commandments are good. Our natural reaction is to hear rules or commandments and want to rebel against that. And God is telling us from the get-go that these are good and they are for your good, in hopes that we will listen to that and thus follow them. So let's get into the commandment itself, which is verse 3 again. You shall have no other gods before me. Look, we've heard this a lot. I think we've got a pretty good idea of what it means, right? But in doing some reading and studying and thinking about this, there's an element of this that I had never really thought of. And really the whole thing kind of hinges on the word before, okay? And most translations will probably say before, and then like a footnote says that it, or besides, okay? And that's usually how we think of it. That's usually how I have thought of it or been taught to think about it, is that we have no other gods like above God, right? And look, we understand that there are always other things in our lives that are priorities, but none of those should ever take the place of God at the top of the list. But there's another idea that I think this word before could also encompass not just there's no other gods before him, like in place of him or on top of him, but also thinking of the word before as in his presence, like we kneel before him, like in front of him. So the fact that we would have no other gods, period, in his presence, and we're always in his presence. I think there's room to sort of understand before in both of these terms, okay? So is it besides or is it before? If it's besides, we're talking about you have no other gods in preference to God. If we're talking before him, there's no other gods in his presence. The implication of that being there's no, if it's sort of this besides or preference idea, there's no other gods above me. Or does it carry this idea that there's no other gods at all because they're always before him? And so if we have no other gods before him, in front of him, then we have no other gods at all. I maybe we're splitting hairs, and I don't really think that it's one versus the other. I think it kind of encompasses both. That the fact is we should have no other gods. Nothing should take the place of him. There's nothing that should distract us from our ultimate allegiance to him. So let me close with just a question, and I'll get to some of the chat stuff, okay? So this quote, I found this several years ago. This is from a pastor, well-known pastor from years ago named Adrian Rogers, great man of God. And he had this to say. He said, you say, give God a place in my life. God doesn't want just a place in your life. Then you say, well, I give God prominence in my life. God despises prominence in your life. God demands preeminence in your life. He will take nothing less. God doesn't just want to be at the top of our priority list. God is our priority list, and everything that's in our life has to bow before him and be sort of considered along with him, okay? I have school, I have a job, I have friends, I have family, I have all these different things as a part of my life, hobbies. I know some of you guys watching are into music and those sorts of things. Look, all of those things are fine. Number one, they should never replace God at the top of our list, but all of those things have to be considered with God in mind and done in a way that honors him. And that's sort of the broad scope idea of all of this, is that everything in our lives bows in submission to the ultimate idea that God is preeminent. God is first and over everything. So that's the idea that we're looking for here. We'll continue next time with no carved images or no idols, which that's an interesting one because on the surface it may sound really, really similar to this one, but there's some subtle differences too. So we want to look at those on Friday. Forgot what day it was. So, all right. So I see several guesses about quarter teen. Looks like Tim answered Beth's question. Yes. So the quarter question today, hottest temperature ever in Illinois. So there's your question. Let me know in the chat or some other comment what you think. So anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing some of you guys tonight on Zoom. And like I said, we'll continue this series on Friday with no idols. So, all right. Love you guys. And we'll see you Friday, if not tonight. Later.